choose greater health. That's what we all need to do, right? We have an amazing show that takes place here with an amazing host. Paige Spears is here with Choose Greater Health. My name is Sue Roscoff from World of Ability Podcast Network, and it is my pleasure to bring in your host, Paige Spears. Paige, how are you today?
Just great. Thank you, Sue. And everyone, this is my guest today, Patrice Porter, also known as the Gardening Grandma. And Patrice, can you tell our audience a little bit about that and how what you do relates to a holistic perspective on health?
All right. Well, yes, the gardening grandma. I'm that person if you don't have someone in your life to show you how to garden, grow your own food, I'll be that person. And also working with kids, believing that that should be part of every child's education, knowing how to grow their own food. So I work towards that. And we are I'm a co-creator of the Gardens for Us Community Hub, where folks can come together, learn together, share resources, learn from trusted individuals, experts in the field. And I feel like that's a big part of health is that fresh, nutritious food and being out in nature, having that up close connection to nature. But what I wanted to talk about today, Paige, like with your podcast here, probably you didn't know I had a spinal cord injury. So I went through probably a lot of what you did with the brain injury that I it was in a car crash and I had woken up in the hospital. I had heard your story too, and it was like your whole life has been changed.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, I could no longer do those things I had done before, and I was uncertainty of what my future would be, and one thing I found like how important it is to have that circle of support. Well, I was in the hospital having like the cards and the visits, and my sister was with me the whole time, working with me, helping me through the different stages of recovery. And that circle of support is what helped me through like that first stage. I don't know if this happened to you, but it was uh, depression was starting to fall upon me because you're losing everything, your way of life, there's such uncertainty. But then I realized like I knew people like that had had a spinal cord injuries and they weren't paralyzed. And I started to realize, yes, that it doesn't mean because you've had a spinal cord injury that you're paralyzed for life. And I'm sure that's the same with you. Like, you know, that the brain injury doesn't mean that you're in that stage at the beginnings when there's, a lot of damage. You can do a lot for your recovery to bring back, like for me, it was mobility, bring back my mobility. And I don't know what it was for you. It was your functioning and being able to physical and cognitive. Is that?
Yeah, spinal cord injury actually is what got my neurofeedback provider interested in doing that. And she also was spent some time at the what is now the Shirley Ryan Rehab Center in Chicago. And I went there for a few visits about Botox in my left leg and foot, although I ended up actually having that done in Missouri. And well, it was one of those things that they tried for spasticity in my lower left leg, but then there were other things that were more helpful for that, including giving it time and neurofeedback. And so I had 8 months of twice weekly sessions of that. And that's at that point when I was recovering in Northern Illinois with my parents for the better part of my first year post-injury. And with my injury, it was oxygen deprivation caused by blood clots in my lungs. And that whole thing came from 12 years of anti-anxiety medications and combo hormonal birth control. And now I'm aware that what could have prevented all of that is nutrition-focused psychiatry. That's
Wow.
what's missing or what has been missing from the standard medical approach these days.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it was like those alternative healings. Like one of the big things was water therapy. I was a swimming instructor. I was very much at home in the water. And my sister used to take me out of the hospital, and we could go to this hotel that had like a hot tub and a swimming pool and use it. We pretty much had it to ourselves. And there wasn't that force of gravity. So I could move and walk in the water, use my muscles, uh, and feel normal again, that
Mm-hmm.
muscles. And one thing I found, like it's building that muscle memory that I was very fortunate when the accident happened. I was in, peak physical condition. So I had a lot of muscle memory, but I found out later on in my rehab that the if you don't use your muscles, like they were saying, for about 2 weeks, you can start to lose that muscle memory. And so it's that stimulation and building, like what you said with that uh,
Neuroplasticity.
yeah, yeah. And um, and plus, I had a really big motivation. I had a 10-year-old son at the time. So it's quite something what mothers will go through to be there for their kids so that I could bring them up and everything. So that really motivated me and worked like with my sister and also my other sister. Because I couldn't return home to my home, it was a real cold area and I was living alone and so I went out to BC where it was warmer and I stayed with my sister there, but she was a massage therapist. And so she did a lot of massage and that stimulation there too, stimulating the nerves and relaxing the muscles. There's a lot of tension that can build up. And she also was involved with different therapists so that she would do an exchange, like do some massage for someone, and they would do other treatments. So, like I had cranial sacral, I had like hands-on energy healing. But again, what seemed to work best was that water therapy and massage therapy was really helpful too.
Yeah, I've had muscle memory integration, and a lot of that has come back in my horseback riding from a therapeutic perspective since I started at a therapy barn in Illinois within, I think it was September after the injury. So within 6 months, I was able to start, and that was in private PT/OT sessions. And of course, that was my favorite therapy since I was a fairly strong rider before that and more or less maintained all of it and was able to build up my strength that way, starting by riding halflingers in a bareback pad. And while the horse walked, I could swing my legs to starting on one side and swing around to the other side and facing the back and doing all the things with my upper body too, like holding a ball and working with making baskets at a basketball hoop. And then there are things that I've continued to do at my current therapy barn in our group classes where we will individually take our horses over to a beanbag toss or a ring toss or a basketball hoop and do similar things. So yeah, I rode a few different horses, well, between both barns really. And it was when I moved back to Missouri that I was able to start at my current barn, uh, Cedar Creek. And
Well,
yeah, I've been in group classes with them since 2017, and that's been really fun. They have seasonal classes, and I usually do spring and autumn now, since the summer session is shorter, and the show for that is when my family is on vacation in Michigan. So we just wrapped up our spring season, and I'll be back in uh, September this year.
wow. And that it's so like, for me it was water, for you it was horses. And it's just so natural, hey, that type of therapy,
Hmm.
very natural and like you're moving with the horse and it just naturally has you move your muscles and strengthen and the coordination and the balance and the another thing I did, like I had to learn to ride a bike again. But
Hmm.
they always said once you learn how to ride a bike that you always know how, but no, when you lose that,
Not after brain injury or other related thing.
yeah, so I had to relearn that, but that gave me the freedom again, so I could jump on the bike and be fully mobile and go as fast as normal other people and but it's I love what your show does here. It exposes those different therapies that when people, it's not just the traditional um methods. And like I found now, like I always had the belief, and probably a lot of people, that if you've had a spinal cord injury, that the spine doesn't heal. But it does. I found that, through the different therapies, and that I recovered most of my mobility. I've got a weakness on the left side in particular. Like I can't run, but I can walk without a cane. I can like use my hands now, all the and there's weaknesses in that, but there is a lot that you can do, and they're realizing that now, that it doesn't mean like a brain injury or a spinal cord injury, that like, no, that's not the end. There's so much more that can happen. And I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
I've benefited a lot from body work like myofascial release and some craniosacral therapy, and I've recently been getting a few more neuro movement tune-ups, and that is about brain and body integration and maintaining mobility. And between that and chiropractic adjustments, I've been to my current chiropractor since 2018, and I've done a few times of going twice a week sometimes, and uh, recently down to once a week, and now every other week again. And depending on how the nerve interference scans they do turn out, where there's something that they roll down the spine to check for levels of nerve interference, and also keeping the x-rays updated, and they do those every few years.
okay, yeah. So there's, it just, if you can access these different therapies and practices, that really I like, my injury was a long time ago, and to me it's history now. That's like that isn't my focus at this point. And but I was ever so grateful that I had, first of all, I had the time so I could devote to taking care of myself, having those different therapies so that I could get that recovery. And it did last for years and years and years. Another one I used was a rebounder. Have you ever heard of that with the little mini?
Yeah, mini trampoline. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that was really good because I had the one side was quite weak and I had like the so I was always overcompensating on the good side. But this the rebounder it stimulated it both at the same time. So it
Hmm.
balanced that out and built the strength on equally on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My injury was 10 years ago as of the 11th this month. And I'm lucky I also had family support. And even living in Illinois for a while, I had one of a friend of my parents who was a retired teacher come over to the house and do some reading tutoring with me since I had to relearn how to read. That was one of the effects of the oxygen deprivation. Although I was such a strong reader before, so it was really disorienting when I tried to read the signs at the rehab center a few weeks afterwards, and I couldn't.
Oh, hey, yeah, it's funny how the brain works, but so now like with the tutoring and help reading, so
Yeah.
has that most of that come back? Have
Took
you?
about 6 to 8 months, and yes, it is mostly back, although I have trouble reading scrolling text now, and small print takes me longer at a distance. And I have prismatic lenses in my glasses now. And I saw a behavioral ophthalmologist initially about that, who got the prescription too strong, so had to get another one and take it down a bit. And now I've been seeing a regular ophthalmologist who's been able to check in on that prescription and update as needed. And I've also seen a functional neurologist starting in 2019, and that was it was better than standard neurology since I got exercises to target the areas of my brain that were affected and needed rebalancing.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I love, excuse me, this show too that to let people know that what's possible and that hopefully inspire them to look into those other therapies, what's available. And I know like with Helpopedia, you've become involved with that too, hey? And that there's a the special needs directory helps you find some of those resources that are available. And were you
Yeah,
contribute to that or?
I've mentioned a few resources and I sent the links to, say, the Therapeutic Horseback Riding Association provider directory there.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So that for I can I just mention like the where people can find that directory?
Yeah, I might have the link
Got it.
in.
It's specialneeds.help. It's
Oh,
pretty,
yeah.
yeah, so there, but the that's very helpful. One other thing I want to bring up too is that, the gardening grandma, of course, we've got to have some gardening in here. But I found like in the hospital, I kind of think like hospitals are one of the most unhealthy places. It's that was actually one of my motivation was just I just wanted out of there. But luckily there was a conservatory within walking or wheeling. I was in a wheelchair at that time, so wheeling distance from the hospital. But being out in nature in that those the green spaces with living things, it totally changes your mind. I find it even hard to explain, but all that other stresses, whatever, it can be just let go with the beauty and the scents and the sights and smells, and you just feel more like you're still part of this.
The
And
natural environment is very conducive to health.
very much so. And with gardening, like when you're taking care of living things, it kind of pulls you out of yourself, because got other things depending on you. So that it's great with the garden therapy, or I just for being able to have healthy living is gardening, growing your own food. And one thing that just came about now, we had a kind of a rescue dog, but we now have 10 puppies. And I know
Mhm.
that my husband, he had recovered from a heart attack, and he was kind of losing interest in things and whatever, but having little puppies be dependent on you and taking care of other living things, it really does spark something. And as I say, it kind of pulls you out of yourself that when you
Yeah,
have.
I have a subscription with a company called Hamama for microgreen seed quilts every month, and I have a ceramic grow tray for that too.
Right. Yeah. So there, and that when you can have that fresh, nutritious food. I mean, talk about if you want brain health and recovery, that good diet goes a long way.
Absolutely.
And
For physical and emotional well-being. That has been the best emotional balancing thing for me, has been the nutrition piece of it, and working with providers who do all the either muscle testing or blood work also to find the best supplements and dosages. So I've been seeing a naturopath also for about the last 2 years, and I've made more progress there, and also bioidentical progesterone.
oh, I haven't even heard of that. What's that?
Oh, well, that has made a big difference for me in terms of women's health. And my periods had been on the heavy side, especially since I've been taking Xarelto for the last 10 years. And the progesterone really lightened that up considerably.
All right, all right. So yeah, there's so much there. So I really appreciate you having me on here, Paige, so we can
Yeah.
share, hopefully inspire folks out there that, if you've had some change and are health challenged and or just on the health journey, from whether it's injury or illness, or just wanting to live your best, healthiest life, that there's a lot out there. And I you've got a book, hey, Paige, to
Well,
help.
I currently have a Substack going, and I've loaded all of my written content and scheduled that to go out over the summer. And also, I have links to those interviews on my YouTube channel as well. And we're working on getting this show integrated with that too, so it will go out in the emails. That's what I'd like to have.
Lovely, lovely. And if you are interested in gardening, and you can find me at thegardeninggrandma.com, or come join the Gardens for Us community hub. And there's all things addressing like food security. With the vets, we hope to have that group there too. And garden therapy, there's all different things happening there. So
Sounds great. Thank you, Patrice.